If you're looking to make solar simple, give Ron Domenico with AD Energy a call. All-day energy made simple. Solar solutions with zero down, options to lease or finance, and roofs and trees are no issue. Call Ron Domenico at 609-226-2802 and tell him you saw him on the Sports Box.
Well, hello again, and welcome to the show that hopefully doesn't keep the Maylocks moments going. This is the Sports Box, where the only thing that matters, it's right here. I am Michael out of AK Hamilton, Mike, along with my partner, Brian, the Ranger at Heart. Brian, how are you again?
I'm good. You know, if it's one thing you are, it's consistent.
And I will give you like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, every once in a while. Wait till the draft. I flip the table and the rest of it is fun.
Well, I'll move my iPad first.
Yeah. Today we continue our NHL predictions. We are going to talk about the Metro Division. We are going to talk about those pesky Toronto Maple Leafs against the Washington Capitals. Brian, lead it off. I'll follow in your lead, of course.
I'm going to preface this by saying that's a stupid name for a division.
Well,
every time I hear it, it bothers me.
It goes back in the day when they had the Patrick Division.
I like those. I like Metropolitan not so much.
Yeah,
the winners of your Metropolitan Division, also the President's Trophy winning Washington Capitals, will host the second wild card, the Toronto Maple Leafs, coming over from the Atlantic. Caps, pretty much wire to wire. Great team this year.
Yep.
55 wins.
Across the board.
Good for them, good for them. Now, interesting here, Mike. You know, there's 82 games in a hockey season.
Mm-hmm.
Toronto only won 40, which means that Toronto actually was the loser in more games than they won, but lost 15 of those games in overtime or a shootout, so they got 15 loser points.
I hate the ties and everything in hockey. I hate it.
So,
and you get points for anyway.
Points for losing.
Exactly.
Caps are great, Mike. Caps are great. Number 2 offense, number 1 defense, 3rd in the power play, 6th in the PK. What's it not to like?
I think that wasn't too hard slicing that up and watching.
A lot of single digits there.
A lot of single digits. You know, you talk about 6th on the penalty kill,
yeah.
3rd on the power play, and here comes the Toronto Maple Leafs team that, you know, give them a little bit of credit. They're 5th in offense, but they're also 21st in defense. So this should be, definitely a young team. This is going to be definitely, I think, the most lopsided, if not the most lopsided, in the playoffs. You talk about Washington coming in 118 points. Toronto, give them credit, they made a nice comeback and got in at 95 points. This Toronto team is very young now. And this Washington team is not only loaded, they are loaded with veterans and loaded with guys who can put the puck in the net. And quickly, you don't talk about the goaltending matchups. You talk about Braden Holtby, who's been there, done that, and I think is a solid goaltender, 2.08 goals against average. And here comes Frederik Andersen, who is 33 and 16, 2.67. No slaps himself, but got to give the nod to Holtby.
That's the difference in the series, Mike, is the goaltending. Braden Holtby is by far and away a better goaltender. And how about this, Mike? You know, the leading goal scorer in the series is not named Alex Ovechkin.
Really?
How about that?
He's another scorer.
Auston Matthews, what a rookie season for him. 40 goals for Auston Matthews. God bless him.
Phoenix kid. Yeah. Right on the Arizona.
Nazem Kadri, resurgent year, 32 goals. You got to love, again, you know, JVR had a nice year. I'm sure as a Flyers fan, you remember him?
Yep, that was a great trade.
Luke Shen.
Yeah.
William Nylander, his rookie season, 22 goals. I mean, this Toronto team, I'm going to tell you something. It's not about this year for them. Yeah. They are building a long-term contender.
And they're getting the experience now. They picked up Brian Boyle for a little bit of, playoff experience and hoping they get in, and that's going to help them out, but you look matchup to matchup, it's really not that close.
No, it's not. And it's funny, I look at this roster here, Mike. There's only one minus player on all of Washington, and it's Kevin Shattenkirk, who just got there, who came over from St. Louis.
Yeah.
This is a team, they know this is their last probably real shot at with this group.
Yep.
Salary cap's coming at them hard. You know Shattenkirk's not going to be there next year. You don't know what TJ Oshie does. Justin Williams. A lot of guys who might be wearing other jerseys next year, and they know this is their last best shot. That's why they went out to get a guy like a Kevin Shattenkirk at the price that they paid for him.
You look back from 2014, they're both 5-5 in this series, but you look at the wins and losses. When Toronto loses, they get torched. And when Washington wins, it's a close game. Or when Washington loses, it's a close game. Short and brief, we can go up and down and talk about the Capitals, how great they are and all. I'm just going to say the Capitals in 5. I do think Toronto can steal a game back home when they go back home in game 3 or 4, but I think Washington is obviously dominant here. I don't see any way Washington doesn't come out of the first round. Yeah, I'm going to take Washington 5.
Toronto will be able to score goals in this series.
They will.
They will.
But Washington can score more.
Washington can score more, especially given the fact that Toronto's defense is anywhere on the level.
When you got Ovechkin not leading the score and he's a scoring force that he is, I mean, that's something to be up against.
Yeah, I mean, both teams have 520 goal scorers. I mean, there's definitely some parity there. But
actually, you might even be able to see Anderson and McKinley go back and forth a little bit. I think they're going to have struggles in net there a little bit. McElhinney, they might go back and forth a little bit. So
well, I don't know. I think for Toronto, like I said, it's not about this year. I mean, I think it's nice for the fans that they made the playoffs, but so I'm going to give you an analogy, and I'm going to involve your Flyers for a second to make my point with this. Last year, in this exact series, Washington against the 8 seed, basically, the low wild card, I said it wasn't the Flyers' best interest to make the playoffs because they were never going to win the series, and you don't really gain anything get the higher pick. Toronto's in a different spot because Toronto's such a young team, and the cupboard is so full that for them, I will say get the experience because they're all so young. Different team than how the Flyers went up last year.
Any experience is good experience.
Yes, but the result's going to be the same. The Caps are going to steamroll the Toronto Maple Leafs. I will say this: if Toronto can win one in Washington, which I don't think they're going to, if they do, that's going to be a raucous building in Toronto.
Yeah.
If they get up there, if they think they got a shot in the series, again, if you're a Maple Leafs fan, you're just on cloud 9 with this team. You're the number 1 pick in the draft last year to the playoffs this year. That's a hell of a turnaround. You give a lot of credit to the management there. Just wonderful.
If Toronto can even get to 6 with this Washington team, that's a big accomplishment there. And like Brian said, building for the future. But I'm going to stick with it. Washington in 5.
Yeah, this is the only series I think that can really be a sweep. Frankly, I'm not going to call that. I'm not going to say the kids don't win a game. I'll also take Washington in 5, but I
could be a sweep.
Toronto they'll stay with them a little bit. I mean, they're going to score their goals. I mean, especially when you look at what these teams do on the specialty teams. This is the number 2 and number 3 power play in the league. And to Toronto's credit, their penalty killing is actually really good as well. Credit to Mike Babcock. But the problem and the main glaring hole here is that defense and the goaltending advantage that Washington has over this young Toronto team.
And the experience.
Yeah, and plus,
been there, done that.
Toronto's got a lot of runway here.
Yep.
It's kind of cutting close for Washington. They don't have that many shots at this with the team that they got. So
I agree.
Again, I think Washington takes this. I don't think it's going to be that close.
So our next matchup in the Metro Division involves the Columbus Blue Jackets against those pesky Pittsburgh Panthers. Yeah, Penguins. Pittsburgh Panthers. Who the hell is Pittsburgh Panthers? Pittsburgh Penguins.
But before we get to that,
that's right. Don't want to forget. Keep an eye out for our sponsor.
This episode of the Sports Box is brought to you by Mic'd Up Entertainment and DJ Mike Velardi. For all of your event planning needs, make sure you contact Mike at 609-864-5925 and tell him that you saw him on the Sports Box.
There we go.
And let's slide right into...
We're going to slide right into the DMs.
Slide right into the matchup now. Yeah. Let's take that over again. Columbus Blue Jackets against Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yes.
Now, this is a series that I think is going to be another close matchup. Now, here's a Columbus team that at the beginning of the year was on fire in the beginning of the year. Everybody thought, who's going to knock off Pittsburgh Penguins? It's going to be Columbus. Look at the Columbus Blue Jackets. They're got Bobrovsky in goal. They're really playing well. Well, after the 15-game win streak that they had, they've kind of cooled off a little bit, and Pittsburgh's got to that style again that they're normally, accustomed to. I always say, you're going to be the champ, you got to beat the champion. You got to knock off the Penguins if you're going to roll to the finals anywhere near moving on in the playoffs. And I don't know if this Columbus team can do it, but you talk about overall, Columbus 4th in the league, Pittsburgh 2nd in the league, and Brian, penalty kill. Pittsburgh's 19 in the league, and Columbus not a shabby 10, so not too bad.
How about a 108-point team starting on the road in the playoffs?
Yep.
They would have been 1 point. They'd have been 1 point off the lead out west. And here they are, and this is going to be a knockdown, drag-out series. These are 2 of the best teams this year in the league, and the stats bear that out. Pittsburgh's never going to beat you defensively. It's not really their strength, but boy, are they loaded for bear on offense. And Columbus is no slouch either. Again, they're second defensively. They do score goals. Interesting coaching matchup here. So, as the Ranger fan that I am, I will tell you that John Tortorella, who used to coach the Rangers, Mike Sullivan, who coached Pittsburgh to the Cup last year, was Tortorella's not heir apparent, not really his protege, but his sidekick, if you will, with the Rangers, for a couple of years there. And I know that he was very happy that Sullivan won the Cup last year with Pittsburgh, but these 2 teams know each other very, very well. Again, Pittsburgh 50 wins, Columbus 49. It's that close in the league this year. And The interesting part about this here is, usually I say the team with the defensive acumen is probably in best shape. Mm-hmm. I don't know about that. I don't know about that because, Columbus is a team with a lot of guys who've never really done anything in the playoffs. They only had one playoff series, which was also against these Pittsburgh Penguins a couple of years ago. Tortorella has his playoff pedigree. He's taken teams deep, but, again, you look at a guy like Sidney Crosby, another great year for Sidney Crosby, as much as I hate talking about it. 44 goals for Sidney, no suspensions, of course, even though he slashes people's fingers. You look at the offense on the other side, Cam Atkinson, what a great year for Cam Atkinson, a resurgent year for Nick Foligno. Brandon Saad's very good as well.
Well, Nick Foligno's always been a good player, I think.
Well, he had an off year last year, had a great year the year before, but, again, offensively, you got to look at what Pittsburgh can do. How about Connor Sheary, 23 goals out of nowhere, frankly?
Yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh's loaded with firepower. They definitely are ready to go.
That they are. They made a couple of acquisitions at the deadline, including Ron Hainsey, Mark Streit, to solidify that defensive core right there.
Yep.
The goaltending, this was the first year that Marc-Andre wasn't the only guy. Matt Murray.
We actually thought he was going to get moved to Andre Fleury.
Still could happen.
That contract is just too big, I think.
Still could happen, maybe to Vegas, but Bobrovsky's got that job in Columbus on lock. And, again, I like what Columbus is doing on the longer term. I just think this is the matchup. No team in the league has a harder road than Columbus does.
Absolutely.
Other than Toronto, if they were able to get through Washington, which they won't.
Yep.
So, this is really a lot to ask of this Columbus team. It's just unfortunate. I am not a fan of this playoffs, of the seeding.
I don't like it either.
No team is punished more than Columbus in this match.
For having a great season.
Yeah. Again, special teams both good. Especially power
offense is a little bit not lopsided, but Pittsburgh is 1 and Columbus is 6. But
it's the defense, really.
Yeah, and it's going to come down to goaltending. If you look at goaltending, you have Matt Murray in goal. Okay, you can say Matt Murray's a young kid, but you also got Andre Fleury backing him up, who's been there before and done that. Maybe he hasn't, got to a certain level, but he's a solid backup to have, and he's ready to go. You talk about Bobrovsky. Here's a guy who's, I don't know if he's first time in the playoffs. I think his second trip to the playoffs.
Yes.
But here's a guy who's got to stand on his head with a team that's just loaded for firepower. Personally, I'd love to pick Columbus. I think they've earned a spot to move on. Like Brian said, I think they've just traveled a heavy road here, and I think it's going to be a lot for them. I'm going to take Pittsburgh in 7. I think it's going to be a bang-out knockout, and I think Columbus, although this team from Pittsburgh is loaded for bear with offense and great goaltending, I think Columbus can take them to the limit. I just think it's not going to be enough. I think this Pittsburgh team is still the team to beat, and I think Pittsburgh moves on in 7.
It's always a great show, and I can quote Ric Flair.
Oh, jeez.
So, to be the man,
you got to beat the man.
I was looking for a woo there.
Woo!
Yes, there you go. This is, again, for Columbus, tough matchup. Pittsburgh's got, obviously they did this last year, this game, but I do think Columbus, they're going to feel the air on their neck.
Oh, yeah.
They're not going to run away with this series.
Take it to the wall.
They steamrolled the Rangers last year. Mm-hmm. They won't do that to Columbus this year. I also think Pittsburgh wins this series. I'm going to say 6, but I think it's a tight 6. It could go 7. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Yeah. I just think for me, Pittsburgh's experience outweighs a relatively young Columbus team. Hasn't really done that before. They've not won a playoff series yet as a franchise. I just don't think it happens here. They honestly would have been better off losing some more games and getting out of that. Division.
That little run they went on at the end of the season, they went back and forth. They just got in the spot there and now. So, nobody's fault. But.
I think for Columbus to win, they're going to need a lot more secondary scoring. I think you're going to see Gagne, Jenner really have to have big series, and I just don't. There's only one puck. I just don't think because Pittsburgh possesses the puck so much.
Right, and I think the power play. Not that the power play isn't going to be. It's not going to be the main reason, but you got to slow Pittsburgh down on this power play. I mean, you got to slow them down on the penalty kill because they'll just eat you up alive. Every penalty you get, you got to be worried that they're going to score on the power play. So I think if Columbus can minimize the playoff goal or the power play goals, almost shut them down, they have, like I said, have a good shot to take them the distance. That's
but again, talk about a team kind of like coming to the end, just putting along. They only won 3 of their last 10 games. Pittsburgh wasn't that much better, but. Yeah. Again, I mean, that's really the difference. Give me Pittsburgh.
Malkin, Crosby.
Kessel.
You got Kessel. You got loads of firepower. Waves of firepower.
It is what it is.
Oh.
Tell you what, that team's going to be dangerous if they can get out of Fleury's contract, too. That's a big money.
That's a big contract.
You got some open space?
I don't know where you're going to get. Where you're going to dump him through.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all the time we have. Thank you for watching our Metro Division matchups. Keep an eye out. We always have good stuff coming. And remember, we're always on social media.
You know this by now. I'm telling you nothing you don't already know as a loyal Sports Box fan. However, for the one or two people that are just finding us for the first time, hey, welcome to the show. You can find us on Twitter at SportsBox Show and on Facebook at SportsBox Show. Great, wonderful areas to interact with us, share us your opinion, and make sure you're commenting on our YouTube videos and subscribing as well. We love interacting with you guys, love hearing what you have to say, and we want to make sure we're covering what you want us to cover. So keep an eye out. This is just the beginning for we're covering for the playoffs for you.
We always have good stuff coming. And remember, at the Sports Box, the only opinion that matters. Hardy, tell them. It's right here.
You know, he threw his helmet, and he wasn't, you know.
Hey, you're son of a...
He needs protection.
Oh, yeah. He collapsed. It's okay. The Bucks won't. Take care. See you. 1, 2, 3.
Don't forget to subscribe.